Welcome in to another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Max Chadwick alongside Dalton. Wasserman here, breaking down the biggest results from what was a spooky Week 10 of college football. Dalton, we said it before, looking at this slate, we could be in store for some major upsets, and they came in the ACC this weekend. 3 top 10 teams overall went down. 2 of those top 10 teams came from the ACC, and of course, plenty of other major results with only a few weeks left to go in the regular season.
We had a hunch it would be a big week for underdogs, and it was. There was some other close calls throughout the day, but certainly the upsets were the story, and the fact that we once again get college football turned upside down every single week as we do. It's going to be a lot of fun going into the first official playoff ranking of the season. You just wonder at the madness. I think the top 4 or 5, you feel pretty good about what that's going to look like, but beyond that, with these at-large bids, it is about to get crazy.
Yeah, speaking of that, because the first playoff ranking is coming out this Tuesday night, we're going to change up the show a little bit. At the very end of the show, instead of a top 25, we're going to give out what the playoff bracket will look like using the brand new PFF Top 25. If you want to see the full PFF Top 25, that'll be out in article form usually on Mondays. It usually comes out, so be on the lookout for that at pff.com. But yeah, playoff bracket coming up later on in the show. But of course, we have to get through all of these games first and remind you guys that PFF Plus right now is 25% off when you use the promo code PFFCFB25 to get all of the same data and insights that we have for every single game from Week 10 in college football. And you get access to our 2026 NFL Mock Draft Simulator and our fantasy football tools and our betting tools right now as well. All right, let's get to the first game. That is number 20 Texas taking down number 9 Vanderbilt 34-31. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Texas Longhorns. Edge rusher Colin Simmons with an elite 90.8 grade for the true sophomore. Ethan Burke, 78.9. Brad Spence, 77.2. Wide receiver Emmett Mosley, 72.7. Quintravion Wisner, 70.7. And Arch Manning with a really good 83.8 grade in the win. Let's go over to Vanderbilt with their highest grade players in the loss. Joshua Singh, the defensive tackle, 75.5. Eli Stowers, the star tight end, 73.7. Jalen Lackey, the corner, 68.3. Corday Signor, the edge rusher, 67.6. Junior Sherrill, the wide receiver, 67.1. And the highest graded player was actually Diego Pavia with a 77.5 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story of this game?
So for multiple reasons, the big story for me for Vanderbilt offensively is that they couldn't get the run game going. And this team, despite the heroics of Diego Pavia, still wants to run the football at an elite rate. Only 31 designed rushing yards this entire game, Max. And for 2 reasons. Number one, Texas run defense is just outstanding. It's something you highlighted in the preview against Vanderbilt's offensive line, which is, to be honest, the biggest weakness on this team. They do a good job of scheming around it. But when you're playing a team up front as physical as Texas is, you can have issues, and I think that actually could be an issue in Vanderbilt's next matchup against Auburn. I know Auburn doesn't look great right now. They just lost to Kentucky 10-3 last night, but their run defense is an elite unit. It's the one thing they have going for them every single week. There's 2 reasons for it. 1, Texas was more physically dominant up front, and 2, they got out ahead early with the yards after catch you're going to talk about with the great play calling. I thought this was the best called game from Steve Sarkisian all year, and Arch Manning was outstanding, but the idea when you're playing against Vanderbilt is that, like a lot of teams in the country, there's a couple more we're going to talk about in this show, if you get ahead of them and you make them one-dimensional, even for as great as Diego Pavia is, and he almost pulled off a miraculous comeback with, maybe 1 more yard on the sideline there of room with the onside kick, but if you make them one-dimensional and you make them a drop-back passing team, you're at a big advantage against Vanderbilt. It showed again today. Texas defense was outstanding up front, and their offense getting them ahead early was a big factor.
Yeah, absolutely. The defensive line for Texas was great. I'll talk about Colin Simmons later on. But yeah, the defensive line was great. And I mentioned in the preview that the offensive line for Vanderbilt was really the one weakness of that offense. And they did lose up front, especially in that run game for them. For me, Texas offensively really bounced back. And a major reason why was, of course, Arch Manning, who Dalton will talk about in just a second, who played very well. But also the receivers were incredible after the catch. Texas had 250 yards after the catch in this game. It's their most all season. They had 159 receiving yards after contact in this one, with 13 broken tackles after the catch. Ryan Wingo had 97 yards after the catch, most of that coming on the 75-yard touchdown catch he had on the first play of the game. Texas had 196 passing yards on throws behind the line of scrimmage. A lot of screens in this game against Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt could not tackle these Texas pass catchers out there. They just were really bad in open field tackling. Arch did play very well, and Dalton talked with him in a second, but really I thought what won this game offensively for Texas was how really dynamic the receivers were after the catch.
I mean, imagine the day Wingo could have had if he hadn't got hurt after 2 snaps, right? And his first 2 snaps are pretty good, 2 catches for 89 yards. But no, you're absolutely right. It felt like Texas came out offensively in this game and just said, we are faster than you, and we're going to prove it in open space. Instead of trying to mess around with the run game between the tackles and deal with Langston Patterson and Vanderbilt's front 7, they said, we think we can beat you in space, and they did all day. And that brings us to Arch Manning. Look, early on, the game plan was conservative. The idea was to rack up yards after catch, but he was outstanding, and I think this is the first time really for 2 weeks in a row that we've seen Arch Manning play really, really well. And to be honest with you, for as much as is talked about him, he's been their best offensive player this year. They're just so young on offense, on the offensive line with 4 new starters, with young guys like Ryan Wingo trying to step up, DeAndre Moore trying to step up for this offense. They're getting Ryan Niblett involved a little bit more after he's been the special teams ace all season. But Manning was outstanding in this game. 86.9 passing grade is his second best of the season, and the only game better came against Sam Houston, who's one of the worst teams in the country. 91.3 passing grade against the blitz. Vanderbilt's answer for quarterbacks getting hot is generally to pressure them, and Manning was outstanding against it. 15 of 18, 248 yards, 3 touchdowns against the blitz in this game. This version of Manning that we've seen for the last 5 quarters plus, this is a version of Manning that can get them to the playoff. They still have 2 huge games left against Georgia and Texas A&M, but it feels like he's rounding into form at the right time.
Yeah, right now he's the 26th highest graded quarterback in college football this season. So I think he's gotten a lot of unnecessary hate this year. Obviously, it started off slow for him. It's been a little up and down for him this year too, but overall, he's been a really good quarterback for Texas, and I think Longhorn fans should be very encouraged by what he's done this year. I know he's got all the hype in the world with his last name and all that, and he was the Heisman favorite this year going into the year, but he has still been very, very good for Texas this season. Also, his teammate, true sophomore Colin Simmons, he entered the year with a lot of hype too. He's my number 1 edge in the country going into the season, and he showed why in this game with a 91 PFF grade, 90.2 pass rush grade, 78.2 run defense grade. He had a sack and 7 pressures in this one against Vanderbilt with a 37% pass rush win rate, 2 run defense stops, and a tackle for loss as well. Right now, he has a 90.6 pass rush grade on the year as a top 15 mark in college football. He looks like I'm not going to say a lock just yet because it's very early, but he's probably going to be a top 10 pick in the 2027 NFL draft. The way he looked last year as a true freshman and the way he's looking this year as a true sophomore.
He was outstanding. He was the best player on the field, I think, by far in this game. For as many guys as performed well for Texas, he announced his presence early, especially with the forced fumble on Pavia at the mesh point on that run play, and then he just kept at it all day. This is a guy that when he gets in a rhythm, you just cannot block him. The Vanderbilt stood no chance all day. With number 1 off the edge there, unstoppable in this game, and if he continues that too, that's going to be another guy that carries Texas towards playoff contention.
Yeah, we will get to the new playoff bracket pretty soon, but Texas launching up that right now. I would say right now, Dalton, and I know there's a lot of Notre Dame fans out there that won't love me saying this, but I think out of all the 2-loss teams in the country right now, Texas has the best resume. They beat Oklahoma. They beat Vanderbilt. Notre Dame, I know they lost to good teams in Miami, but Miami loss looks even worse now. They lost to Texas A&M as well. Right now, I would put Texas ahead of Notre Dame.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Losing by 7 to Ohio State looks a lot more honorable than a lot might think, and obviously they didn't look great in that game. It was also the first game of the year at Ohio State. The Florida loss doesn't look great right now. I know Florida plays tight in just about every game, but that's still a team that's, 3-5 at this stage of the year. So, no, I mean, they have to finish the job. I think Texas is just in that same boat as several other teams, including Vandy in the SEC.
So got Georgia and A&M after this.
Right. Yeah. But at 10-2, they're getting in, no question.
Yes.
They win both those games. They might even get a home game going into the playoff. 9-3 is going to be shaky.
Yeah.
I think we will see about any team that's 9-3 is going to be shaky. Texas and Oklahoma are probably the two teams that would have the best case at 9-3, but would they get in over a Notre Dame? Would they get in over, maybe a 10-2 Big 12 team or a 10-2 even Miami with the bad loss that not bad loss, SMU's a good team, but the loss they had yesterday. But we saw Miami from the ACC getting knocked out at 10-2 last year. So it's going to be borderline. What we can say about Texas here is this was a huge win, and if they go 10-2, they're a lock. And they're probably going to be in the top 8 and getting a home game in Austin for the first round again.
Yeah, and then for Vanderbilt, they obviously got to win out right now. They got Tennessee at the end of the year. They got Auburn and Kentucky, so they should be favored in the Auburn. They are favored in the Auburn game and probably will be favored in the Kentucky game too, obviously. But then the Tennessee game at the end of the year too is a massive game for them. Not only a rivalry game, but also for Vanderbilt to either go to the playoff or have their hopes die against Tennessee. So that should be a really fun one later on this season. But Vanderbilt and Texas now in the same boat. They got to pretty much win out, I would say, to get in the playoff. I don't know if Texas will get in with 3 losses right now, although they're probably one of the better positioned teams to get in with 3 losses, I will say. But huge win for Texas, keeps their season alive with a win over a top 10 team in Vanderbilt. Another top 10 team going down yesterday with NC State beating number 8 Georgia Tech 48-36. We had a shootout yesterday at Raleigh. So NC State did a phenomenal job. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Wolfpack. Highest graded player for NC State was the tight end, not Justin Jolie because he didn't play. It was Dante Daniels with an 87 grade out there. The second highest graded player was a running back, not Hollywood Smothers because he didn't play. It was Jaden Scott with a 79.4 grade. Noah Rogers, 74.9, the wide receiver. Shean Sloan, the edge rusher, 72.1. Cody Hardy, the tight end as well, 68.2. And then CJ Bailey with an 86 grade in the win for NC State. Let's go over to Georgia Tech with their highest grade players in the loss. Wide receiver Eric Rivers, 76.5. Brett Seether, the tight end, 74.1. Akello Stone, the D tackle, 73. Luke Harpring, the tight end, 72.7. Kyle Efford, the linebacker, 71.9. And Haynes King with a valiant effort out there with an 85.1 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
No, I mean, you called it there with Haynes King with the high grade. This one's on the Georgia Tech defense, and now after their first 9 games, they're 101st in the country in PFF grade on defense. NC State scored on 8 of their 10 drives. What did that allow them to do, especially early on? Georgia Tech did not play a single offensive snap in this game with a lead. They never ran a single offensive play with a lead in this game. This is a team with their run game with Haynes King at quarterback that is designed to play in front. Now, I know they've had some comeback wins this year, the Colorado game, the Wake Forest game, the Clemson game, but ideally this team wants to get out ahead and use their identity in the run game to control the pace of this game, right? They never had control of the pace of this game. And look, this is not to say, and look, I challenged it in the preview. I said, listen, I would rather have Haynes King beat me with his arm than his legs, and he threw for over 400 yards. There's none of this game that is about Haynes King and anything he did wrong. This is about the Georgia Tech defense not being able to get a stop really at any point in the game, especially when you talk about NC State's 2 most notable players aside from CJ Bailey, Hollywood Smothers and Justin Jolie, the running back and the tight end, both being out of this game and still giving up 48 points. If you're Georgia Tech, that's tough. That's tough right there. And NC State putting out their best offensive game of the year, 77.1 team offense grade. The only game they were better came against Campbell, which is an FCS team. So you look at just the rhythm that NC State found early, the throws that CJ Bailey made down the field, and then just even watching Georgia Tech's defense, run fits that were off, coverages that were busted, assignments blown left and right, missing tackles. I mean, it just was not the defensive effort they could bring out there in a road game like this against a pretty underrated team. NC State might be floating around 500, but this is a dangerous offense with several playmakers and a quarterback, a young quarterback who's really developing well as the season goes on here. This just wasn't a good enough effort from Georgia Tech defensively to get a big road win here.
No, not at all. NC State averaged 8.8 yards per play in this game. And I said in the preview, and I know a lot of Georgia Tech fans did not like me very much for saying it, but I said, hey, this Georgia Tech run defense could be exposed in this one. The entire defense was exposed yesterday against NC State. 592 yards of total offense for the Wolfpack. 249 yards on the ground, 7.5 yards per carry. Again, without their superstar running back in Hollywood Smothers. Jaden Scott ran for 196 yards. The team had a 39% forced missed tackle rate yesterday as well. 340 yards through the air for the Wolfpack, 10.3 yards per pass. Again, without one of their top pass catchers in tight end Justin Jolie. 3 different pass catchers for NC State had at least 50 yards against Georgia Tech yesterday. Haynes King has been absolutely phenomenal this year, and he did all he could in this one to win this game for Georgia Tech. And listen, we'll get to our Heisman segment later on in the show. Haynes King is still in my top 5 for the Heisman right now. I know this is a tough loss for Georgia Tech, but what he has done for that offense this year has been sensational. But this Georgia Tech defense has been showing signs of warts through their first 8 wins of the year, and it finally reared their ugly head in this one against NC State, and this is why they lost this game.
Nobody carries their team through more adversity than Haynes King. But this was too much. You can't ask him to go out there and score 50 points on the road against a pretty solid team at NC State. You just, especially when you're behind the entire game, you just cannot ask him to do that. This team has to get better on defense. They've got to do it. In the next couple weeks, got Boston College this coming week, who gave Notre Dame a little bit of a fight this week, right? But then you've got the last 2 games that are so crucial. Pittsburgh, who's red hot, and then Georgia, obviously, in the rivalry game right after that. They've got to find answers on defense in these big games right now. Those 2 big games are both at home, but they have to be better on that side of the ball. There's only so much that Haynes King can carry them through.
Who was your most impressive player from this game?
I'll tell you what, you mentioned Hollywood Smothers being out, and when we heard about that pregame, right, it was like, oh, that's an issue. Well, apparently it wasn't, because you would have never known the difference with Jaden Scott and the way he ran the football. 24 carries, 194 yards, 11 missed tackles forced. Georgia Tech missed 11 tackles on him, and I think the 2 signature plays of the night were NC State's first play of the second half, the 69-yard run that led to a touchdown to get the second half going for him. And then this touchdown in the fourth quarter with about 4 minutes left that sealed it, really put the game out of reach. Jaden Scott could not have been any more clutch in this game, keeping this offense on schedule, obviously setting up C.J. Bailey with good situations to take those vertical shots that he did all night. But Jaden Scott, I think, really was the MVP of this offense in the way that he still allowed them to be 2-dimensional, even with Hollywood Smothers out this week.
The only one I'll argue for MVP is his quarterback, C.J. Bailey, because of how good he was for NC State, and the fact that he did it without his star running back and his star tight end. I know Jaden Scott was great out there, but C.J. Bailey was phenomenal. Put up nearly 50 points on a top 10 team in the country in Georgia Tech. 86 PFF grade, 340 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Had a big-time throw, no turnover-worthy plays, a 90% adjusted completion rate for C.J. Bailey against Georgia Tech. So he was on target basically for 90% of his passes. He also ran for 41 yards and a touchdown as well. He really outdueled Haynes King, who I think is still one of the best quarterbacks in the country right now, still a Heisman contender. And C.J. Bailey, the true sophomore, he outdueled Haynes King. And this one, even though Haynes King had really a career game against NC State, he was a star last year for the Wolfpack as a true freshman quarterback, and he's been really good for them this year as well, and this was his best game of the season.
Absolutely. I think it's the best we've ever seen him. Credit on a couple of notes here. 9 of 12 on throws of 10 or more air yards. Only under pressure, 9 out of 36 dropbacks here. Credit to his offensive line for protecting him well all night. And against the blitz when Georgia Tech tried to bring the heat, 11 of 13, 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 90 passing grade. Bailey really was outstanding in this game. This is the best game that I've seen him play. Honestly, he was just outstanding. Georgia Tech and Haynes King, they kept coming, and he just kept scoring 48 points and scoring points on 8 out of your 10 drives in this game. Outstanding stuff from Bailey.
Just want to shout out Haynes King, though, real quick. 408 passing yards, an 85.1 PFF grade out there. And then he also ran for over 100 yards. 113 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he had over 500 yards of total offense against NC State, and it still was not enough.
You get 2 more stops in this game, and Haynes King will find a way to win it. I mean, you can't count him out of anything. We've seen that so many times in the past, but you have to get stops at some level. You just cannot allow 48 points when your quarterback plays like that.
So this shakes up the ACC quite a bit. Georgia Tech suffers their first loss of the season. They're still in a pretty good spot to potentially make the ACC title game right now, but it is a tough loss for Georgia Tech, who is now tied with Pitt at 5-1 in the conference, behind Virginia, who is now still 5-0 in the conference too.
We're going to get into Virginia in a little bit, and I think at some point in this show we probably just need to talk about the entirety of those ACC standings. But how about we are going into Week 11, and Virginia has sole possession of first place and undefeated in conference. And the weird part of it being they also have a loss to NC State, but again considered an out-of-conference loss, which doesn't affect them in the standings. Just unbelievable what we're seeing in this conference this year.
Yeah, Georgia Tech's still in a pretty good spot because they got to play Pitt, obviously, which is a tough game.
That Pitt team is red hot ever since Mason Heinschel went into the lineup. That's going to be a fun one.
And they're tied with Pitt in the standings right now, so that could be for a spot in the ACC title game eventually too. But Georgia Tech is still in a pretty decent spot right now, but they pretty much have to win out in order to make that ACC title game and also still make the college football playoff, as well as go over to another massive upset in the ACC yesterday. That was SMU beating number 10 Miami 26-20 in overtime. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the SMU Mustangs. Highest graded player for them was actually Kevin Jennings, the quarterback. We'll talk about him later, with a 90 PFF grade. But after that, you got Ahmad Moses, the safety, 84.6 with the game-sealing interception against Carson Beck in overtime. Brandon Miazono, the linebacker, 80.8. Jordan Hudson, the wide receiver, had a great game in this one, 77.9. Kiviante Spears, the D-tackle, 77.2. And Zake Barker with a 72.3 grade. Let's go over to Miami with their highest grade players in the loss. Highest grade player is actually Carson Beck, even with that interception, with a 78.1 grade out there. Keelan Marion, 75.3, the wide receiver. Keontae Scott, the corner, 74.4. Edge rusher Akeem Mesidor, 72.3. Damari Brown, the corner, 71.9. And Mark Fletcher, the running back, 69.8. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
Honestly, if you were to just look at the numbers in this game, you would almost have no idea how Miami lost when you really look at it. I mean, you have a team that came out. First of all, we talk about Carson Beck and clean pockets and how good Miami's offensive line is. They were really good. Carson Beck, 42 dropbacks. He was under pressure on 2 of them. 2. I don't know the last time I saw that. 2 out of 42. Miami in regulation, SMU had 25 rushing yards on their drive in overtime, right? They drove right down to the end zone on the ground. In regulation, SMU had 17 rushing yards. Miami had the ball for 37 and a half minutes. They went 7 of 16 on third down. Their quarterback was their highest graded player. It almost makes no sense that they lost this game. And then you look at, they had 12 penalties for 96 yards. You had Carson Beck with his one bad throw of the game at the absolute worst time when they were inside the 5-yard line down there in overtime, and Ahmad Moses makes a great play for the interception. And then the one split you really look at, and there's a couple of teams that did this week. Miami, once they got into SMU territory, everything just stalled repeatedly. And that's no more embodied than with Carson Beck. Carson Beck, when plays started in his own territory, had an 88.6 passing grade. In SMU territory, a 58.6 passing grade. Miami didn't finish drives. The big roughing the passer penalty that kept SMU in it, that was tough. And then in overtime, they just lost all of the key moments in this game, despite a lot of parts of the team playing well. And, credit to Rhett Lashley and the game plan that he had coming off the contract extension, because he knew, again, just like Jeff Brom did for Louisville, hey, we work around this defensive line, we got a shot. And he asked Kevin Jennings for a lot. But Miami, a lot of the numbers in this game tipped the scales toward them, and they didn't finish drives. They didn't finish the game. They lost all the big moments, and SMU won all those big moments and found a way to get a huge win. And how about a huge win after an upset loss of their own to Wake Forest at the last second last week? Just unbelievable stuff for the Mustangs to bounce back and get themselves right back in this ACC race.
Yeah, Kevin Jennings was just phenomenal in this one. 91.8 passing grade is my stat that told the story in this one. 365 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks, 4 big-time throws, and no turnover-worthy plays. And SMU's offensive line, which is my side of the preview, I talked about how, SMU had the second best pass blocking grade in the country, only behind Oregon, but they will be tested against what has been maybe the best defensive line in the country in Miami. And SMU's offensive line won that battle. Kevin Jennings was only under pressure on 12 of his 49 dropbacks against Miami. And still, when he was under pressure, he was great. 80.8 passing grade under pressure against Miami as well. He played on time and with good accuracy, which is something we haven't said a lot for Kevin Jennings in his career. 82% adjusted completion rate, about a 2.5 second average time to throw as well. He did not make any back-breaking plays and still produced his highest graded game of the season against that defense. Unlike Carson Beck, who overall played pretty well, but made a back-breaking mistake, obviously, in that overtime. Kevin Jennings was absolutely phenomenal in this game.
And much like I said, Jeff Brom with Louisville against this Miami team when they beat them, just an outstanding game plan. I thought especially early in the game. Look, Rhett Lashley basically conceded that he was not going to be able to run the football on this team and Ruben Bain in this defensive line. So what did he do? Quick passing game, screens. They ran 7 screens, got 46 yards out of it in this game. Play action heavy, 43% play action in this game. Kevin Jennings on those play action dropbacks, 93.9 passing grade with 3 big-time throws. And I find interesting that lately there's been more of an emphasis on Jennings getting rid of the football. We know he can be a roller coaster late in plays, and sometimes you kind of need that when you're trying to pull off an upset like this against a defense like this. But Kevin Jennings now 5 games in a row where his average time to throw was under 2.6 seconds, 2.54 in this game. Find that very interesting. SMU could obviously only wonder the position they would be in had they finished off the game against Wake Forest, but to bounce back with a win like this, and as well as Kevin Jennings plays, we know when he plays clean football, he can be really, really good. You had him as the number 10 quarterback coming into the year, didn't you? And that's just the idea, is that if you can avoid the low end of that roller coaster, he's a dangerous playmaker. He was all day. Rhett Lashley asked Jennings to carry them in this game, and he absolutely did it to the highest degree.
And I know SMU has 3 losses on the year, but only one of those losses in ACC play. So SMU is very, very much in the race for the ACC title game right now. And, you know, for an SMU offense, Dalton only had 42 yards rushing and 1.8 yards per carry. Kevin Jennings had to carry this offense, and he did just that to beat Miami. Who was your most impressive part of this game?
I mean, look, between this and the North Carolina win, it was a good week to be a Jordan Hudson, apparently. So 11 catches.
God.
I know. Sorry.
Damn.
11 catches for 136 yards for Jordan Hudson. Look, if you're going to have a quarterback playing like that, you need somebody to step up on the outside that makes those big plays. He did it. 8 first downs out of those 11 catches, 3 explosive plays, 3 missed tackles, 4. He was all over the place. In past games, we've seen guys like Romello Brinson or even the tight end step up for this team. Jordan Hudson was awesome in this game. He was their number 1 threat. He was in chemistry with Kevin Jennings all day long.
I got to shout out Rhett Lashley, the head coach for SMU. What a weekend for Rhett Lashley. Again, on Friday night, this guy signs a 2-year extension at SMU, made him one of the 10 highest paid coaches in all of college football, and put any rumors of him leaving SMU for his alma mater in Arkansas to bed. He will be at SMU. And then right after that, he beat Miami in SMU's first top 10 win in a very, very long time. He brought SMU to the playoff last year, the best season that they've had since 1984, which was right before they received a 2-year death penalty at that program. He got a big raise, and he showed that it was worth it less than 24 hours after that raise, honestly. So what a weekend for Rhett Lashley right now. And like I said, SMU, with only 1 conference loss right now, they are still very, very much in the running for an ACC title.
Some big games left. They've got Boston College next week, and then they get Louisville and Cal, which are 2 massive games. That SMU-Louisville game is probably just going to be an elimination game when it comes to the ACC race. And then you get Cal right after that on the road. That's still not an easy game. We saw Cal take Virginia to the brink yesterday. They've played well in spurts all season. So SMU's still got a tough road to go, but they are in this thing because of the way they bounced back off of that Wake Forest loss.
And now Miami, all of a sudden, with 2 losses on the year, and they're behind the 8 ball. They're behind the 8 ball, and Dalton, even if they're at 10-2 on the year and don't make the ACC title game, it's going to be a fascinating conversation if they can even get in the playoff.
I mean, honestly, the way they've played offensively against good teams this year, I mean, that they got to go at Pitt. Even if they're going to survive this against NC State and Virginia Tech first, they got to go at Pitt, their last game of the year, and Pitt's red hot the way they've been playing lately. That's not going to be easy either. And honestly, even if they finish 10-2, feels a lot like last year, doesn't it? Where it just feels like they don't have enough great wins. Obviously, USF is a good win. Florida State doesn't look as good. You're basically carrying yourself on the Notre Dame and the USF win, 2 of their first 3 wins of the year, to go, is this enough? And I don't know that it is if you're losing to Louisville, if you're losing to SMU, and if you lose another game, then you have a problem.
And also, can we just point out right now, this is a bad loss for Miami. This is a bad loss for Notre Dame, too. All of a sudden, because Dalton, if they are 10-2 at the end of the year, and you're talking about 10-2 Miami and a 10-2 Notre Dame, I know my answer. I'm curious what you think. I think you got to put in Miami over them. If you're deciding between those two, I mean, Miami beat them head-to-head.
Yeah, the head-to-head. The resumes are, the resumes otherwise are relatively similar, right? I mean, you know, Notre Dame's best win is USC right now, and obviously they're ranked and they earned that one. But, no, head-to-head, if that's the last tiebreaker we're looking at, it has to be Miami. Yeah. I agree with that.
So, you know, we thought Notre Dame at 10-2 was pretty much a lock to get in, but with all these chaotic results going on in the ACC, all of a sudden the Fighting Irish have to be not feeling great right now.
Well, and the other thing, too, you still have some developments at the top of the Big 12 there with a BYU and you know, even Texas Tech, where that's going. They still only have the one loss this year. But also the SEC and all of the teams with at least the potential to get to 10 wins. We saw 4 out of the SEC last year, but just about any 10-2 SEC team is going to have a better resume than Notre Dame, and that's not great. We could even see 5 out of the SEC this year.
I really think this Tuesday night with the first playoff ranking reveal is going to tell us a lot. Because if they, for some reason, if they still have Notre Dame above Miami, which I think is possible, that'll cause a lot of controversy.
They're another one. I'm telling you, the dangerous team that I've mentioned a couple times already is Pittsburgh. Don't put that game past Pitt at home to beat Notre Dame, too. That's going to be a dangerous
Miami.
one.
I got Miami, too.
Yeah.
So,
no, Pitt
could be the giant killer.
Pitt against Pitt's last 3 games, I think it's their last 3 games, are Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Miami. They could screw up the whole thing. The Pitt Panthers could mess up the entire thing here. I mean, they are red hot with Mason Hines at quarterback, and their defense is really good. They've got an opportunity to be the party crasher. That's one we're not talking about enough. Pitt could rebound from early struggles, a loss to West Virginia early in the year, and win the ACC and be a playoff team. They're in this. Mason Hines, man, the freshman quarterback. And those 3 games right there, you couldn't ask for 3 more monumental games all back to back.
I think what this playoff ranking will be on Tuesday will set the tone for the rest of the year. Just how this committee is viewing it right now. Because I'm very curious to see how they view all these 2-loss teams right now in college football, with Texas included in that mix as well. Let's get to another major result that we had. It was number 18 Oklahoma beating number 14 Tennessee 33-27. Let's go over the highest grade player, starting off with the Oklahoma Sooners. Highest graded player was their safety, Peyton Bowen, 82.1. Grayson Halton, the D tackle, 74.5. Another D tackle there in David Stone, 72.6. Edge rusher Taylor Wine, 71.3. Owen Heineke, the linebacker, 71.3 as well. And John Mateer with a 63.3 grade in the win. Let's go over to Tennessee with their highest grade players in the loss. Idris Farouk, 87.9 at safety. Edwin Spillman, the linebacker, 83.2. Cornerback Ty Redmond, 75. Defensive tackle Jackson Moy, 72.3. Cornerback Colton Hood, 71.6. And Joey Aguilar with a 69 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story of this game?
I think this game is emblematic of Tennessee's entire season, honestly. They're going to see this season as one big missed opportunity. And the 3 games that they've lost, I think they feel like there are a lot of missed opportunities in these games. You think about the missed field goal against Georgia. You think about how close a game against Alabama could have been if not for the 100-yard pick 6 from Xavier Brown. And then you look at this game, which just loaded with them. And look, Oklahoma earned it, and their defensive line was outstanding. I'll get to them in a second. But you look at Tennessee, stat that sticks out to me. Just like Miami, in Oklahoma territory, when they ran offensive plays in Oklahoma territory, ready for this? A negative .920 EPA per play on plays in Oklahoma territory. When they got on that side of the field, 1.5 yards per play. They didn't finish drives. The strip sack and the best play maybe we saw all weekend with about a 20-yard stiff arm from R. Mason Thomas. The strip sack, Thomas taking it all the way down the field to give Oklahoma their first touchdown in this game, when it looked like early on, it was like, oh, Tennessee might have them dead in the water here. They're really moving the football well, and Tennessee did move the football well all night until they got deeper into Oklahoma territory and everything got harder. Settled for a field goal on the next drive, then missed a field goal, then 2 interceptions to end the first half, and then again just embodied with the dropped 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter on the drive that could have got them back into this game. Tennessee really, I think in these games, maybe they wouldn't have won the Alabama game anyway, because they would have gone, if they had scored on that drive, and it would have been 16-14. You got an even ball game there. But this feels like missed opportunities in big games from Tennessee. And what that has done now is effectively, regarding the playoff, it's ended their season because they don't have enough good wins on what was a relatively soft schedule. They don't have enough good wins on this schedule to be a 9-3 playoff team from the SEC.
With Vanderbilt losing too, especially.
Yeah, I mean, even if they beat Vanderbilt, they're gonna ruin Vanderbilt's season, which will make them happy. But Tennessee, there's not enough in the resume there. And in all three of these games, it's really about just not finishing drives, Joey Aguilar committing turnovers, and just not being able to take advantage of the opportunities that were right in front of him, because the entire first half of this game especially, Tennessee had the opportunity to put it away right in front of them.
Yep.
They could have dominated this game, and and Oklahoma found a way to make stands in their own territory. But Tennessee, to me, this game right here kind of encapsulates the story of this season to me.
My stat is the rushing difference that we had in this one between Tennessee and Oklahoma. And if you told me that it would be the stat that told the story for me, I would have said Tennessee would win the ball game, but it wasn't, because Oklahoma found their run game in this one and dominated in run defense. Because both teams had plenty of issues with their passing games. Oklahoma, negative .311 EPA per pass. John Mateer only averaged 5.5 yards per pass attempt. Tennessee, negative .237 EPA per pass. Aguilar had 2 interceptions. The difference was, though, Oklahoma finally found its rushing attack, while Tennessee's run game was completely stifled by Oklahoma's defense. Oklahoma ran for 199 yards in this game with 2 touchdowns, averaging over 6 yards per carry. Xavier Robinson had over 100 rushing yards and a touchdown. John Mateer had 93 rushing yards and a touchdown as well. Meanwhile, Tennessee, John Mateer had 93 rushing yards. Tennessee had 93 rushing yards as a team in this one. Only forced 1 missed tackle against Oklahoma. Oklahoma only missed 1 tackle in the run game, 3.2 yards per carry. Oklahoma had a 91.4 run defense grade. That's their best against a Power 4 opponent all season. I know, Dalton, your most impressive is basically that Oklahoma defensive line.
Yeah, I think what we have now with Oklahoma, with only a few games to go, is pretty much solidified the 2 questions that we have to ask ourselves when we go into these next huge Oklahoma games. Or what is it? Their last 3 are LSU, Missouri, Alabama. I mean, that's unbelievable. With the 2 questions you ask with this Oklahoma team, can they run the football enough? And Xavier Robinson has really come through for them the last couple weeks. And can their defensive line dominate? Their defensive line dominated in this game. A 77.8 combined PFF grade in this game. 44.6% pass rush win rate. 9 run stops. 81 run defense grade. And the signature play maybe of Oklahoma's season, the R. Mason Thomas strip sack and touchdown with the stiff arm. With him, it seemed like getting hurt in the last 20 to 30 yards there and still scoring. This defensive line, their 2 losses are 2 of their 3 lowest graded games on the defensive line. The other one in that group was the Michigan game that was close for a long time until they put it away late. This Oklahoma defensive line can be a dominant unit. When it is, they win ball games, and when they run the football well enough, they win ball games, with Robinson especially stepping up for them. But this is the unit you worry about most if you're Alabama, if you're LSU, especially with their offensive line, and if you're Missouri with a true freshman quarterback. You got to find a way to block this front 4. You're going to have a lot of problems.
I want to shout out Peyton Bowen. And this one, the highest grade player for Oklahoma. So he did allow a 54-yard touchdown in this game, but I will say I put more of the blame on that play on Cortland Guillory, who missed the tackle on Braylon Staley that sprung him for the touchdown on that one. So yes, in the stat books for us, it does go down as a 54-yard touchdown allowed by Peyton Bowen, but again, it was more on Cortland Guillory for missing that bad tackle against Braylon Staley, and I blame Peyton Bowen for that. He also had an interception in this game and a forced incompletion in this one as well. He has been a star defensive back for Oklahoma really his entire career, and he made a couple big plays last night too.
No, absolutely. I think when you look at this Oklahoma defense, it is the type of unit that can carry you to a win, and the turnovers especially that they forced in this game were big. I think it must have been an emphasis coming into the week. Hey, Joey Aguilar in big spots is loose with the football. Over the last 2 years at App State, he had the most turnover-worthy plays in the country by a mile. This is a big thing for the Tennessee offense this year. In these 3 games, he's turned the football over in big spots. Oklahoma knew that. They were ball hawking all night, and those were the biggest plays of the game, really, was those turnovers.
Definitely. Big result. Oklahoma beating Tennessee, basically ending any hopes Tennessee had of making it back to the college football playoff, and Oklahoma keeps its season alive right now and goes into a very, very difficult final 3 games of their season. Let's get to another ranked matchup that we had last night, late night one. Number 24 Utah beating number 17 Cincinnati 45-14, a dominant victory for the Utes. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Utah Utes. Their highest graded player was edge rusher John Henry Daly, 87.9. Spencer Fano, the tackle, 86. Teo Johnson, the safety, 79.2. Ryan Davis, the wide receiver, 78.2. Jonah Leia, the D tackle, 73.5. And Devin Dampier, 66.3 grade for him in his return. Cincinnati's highest graded players in the loss, safety Xavier Williams, 78.3. Evan Tangesdal, the guard, 77. Cornerback Logan Wilson, 75.8. Wide receiver Cyrus Allen, 72.2. Edge rusher Jalen Hunt, 70.1. And Brendan Sorsby with only a 55.2 grade in the loss for Cincinnati. Dalton, what told the story of this game?
You want to talk about controlling a game? I mean, it started right at the outset. Cincinnati goes 3-and-out on their first drive. Utah takes 7 minutes to score on their first drive. Really started just wearing down this Cincinnati defense from the start. And look, they use a lighter defensive line with a lot of three-man fronts, but Utah and the way they run their offense, Max, 49 of their 87 plays in this game, they ran with a sixth offensive lineman. They run 47% of their plays this season with six offensive linemen on the field. Max, the next closest team is 11%, and that's Miami, Ohio in the MAC. They just get up there, and they're more physical, and they said, you know what? You want to come in here with what you say is a good run defense and you're a run and stop the run team? So be it. I mean, my stat overall is that Utah had the ball for 40 minutes. Yeah. I mean, and that's the idea for them is ball control, run game. Devin Dampier is the complementary piece. Obviously, he's going to make some plays with his legs, too. Wayshawn Parker was outstanding in this game. Burt Ficklin even gets in there in some Wildcat stuff. You get another rushing threat out there on the field for this Utah offense. 53 carries, 267 yards. And the craziest stat for me when I went back and looked at the total, Cincinnati, 30 missed tackles. 30. If you have 18 to 20, you're having a rough game tackling. 30 missed tackles. The second-level defenders had to be great. It's something I talked about, and they've been great all year for Cincinnati. Jake Golday, Antoine Peak, those guys on the second level of Cincinnati's defense. 30 missed tackles for this team. You'll never beat anybody missing 30 tackles. Utah was the physically dominant team in a game that was going to be decided on the ground. They just pretty much massacred the second level of this Cincinnati defense once they got up there.
My stat is Brendan Sorsby had a 41% adjusted completion rate against Utah, which again is your completion rate plus any drops your receivers have. So he was only on target for about 40% of his passes against Utah. Usually you want that like doubled, so like 80% or so. So I said in the preview, Brendan Sorsby has been one of the best quarterbacks in the country this year, but he's really taking advantage of zone coverage. Against man coverage, he's been good, not great. If you remember back in week 1 when they lost to Nebraska, their other loss this season, Nebraska played a lot of man coverage in that game and dared Cincinnati's receivers to get open and beat them, and they couldn't do it. And it's why Brendan Sorsby only averaged, I think, 2.6 yards per pass attempt against Nebraska in week 1. Utah did the same exact thing. Utah runs man coverage at the highest rate in college football. They played a lot of it last night against Cincinnati, and those receivers could not really separate outside of Cyrus Allen, who had a pretty good game. Outside of him, nobody else could get open, and also Brendan Sorsby was not accurate at all against man coverage. Overall, 11 for 33, his lowest passing grade since that Nebraska game. Cincinnati only had a 58.2 receiving grade as a team. Just, again, Utah's secondary was locked down in man coverage, a lot like Nebraska in week 1, and Cincinnati simply just could not get open, and Sorsby could not throw into tight windows against man coverage.
This was always the big question for Cincinnati coming into the year, and look, their record is better than we thought it would be. They've played better overall than we thought they would, but this passing game, especially against teams that run a lot of man coverage and are not afraid of their receivers. Look, Cyrus Allen made 2 big plays, but otherwise this passing game was non-existent. When they have to face teams like this who run a lot of man coverage and they're not afraid to bump and run, Sorsby doesn't love throwing into tight separation, and these receivers have issues separating one-on-one. They overhauled the receiving core this offseason. They got a whole crew of new guys, Cyrus Allen, Caleb Goody, Jeff Caldwell, all these guys. They got a whole new crew of them. But it feels like it's the same problem. And if they don't turn this around, especially by the time that BYU game comes around in a couple weeks, BYU's a heavy man coverage team themselves with a really good secondary. This could be a problem again. We've seen it twice now with Nebraska and with Utah. Teams that are not afraid of their receivers, they beat Cincinnati. This is what happened the second half of last year. It started, remember, in the Colorado game when they lost that game. Colorado, ton of man coverage, and then everybody else after that followed suit. That's where Cincinnati's losing streak started. So they've got to find ways to either scheme these guys open, or they have to separate better on the outside, or this will happen again against BYU in a couple weeks.
Who do you want to shout out on that Utah defense in this one?
Look, let's look at those two outside corners. Even in the slot, look, Smith snowed in. He gave up the one big play to Cyrus Allen, but you look at these two outside corners. They were just dominant in this game. Blake Cotton and Elijah Davis, 13 combined targets, 5 catches allowed, 48 yards in a game where they were ahead the whole time, so Cincinnati had to throw it. 3 forced incompletions. Cotton had a 73 coverage grade, Davis with a 67. And again, these are not easy assignments when you run the most man coverage in the country like Utah does. Your cover one, your bump and run, it's physical. You could get beat with one false step on any given play, but this Utah secondary, especially these two guys, Davis and Cotton on the outside, outstanding in shutting down these Cincinnati receivers.
I got to shout out Spencer Fano, the tackle for Utah. Looked every bit like a top 10 pick in the NFL draft last night. 80.1 PFF grade, 80.5 pass blocking grade, 0 pressures allowed on 35 pass blocking snaps. Last night, he was only beaten once all night, actually, in pass protection. 75.2 run blocking grade. He had 7 positively graded plays in run blocking and 0 negative ones against Cincinnati's really good run defense. He's very much playing this year like a potential top 10 pick and maybe the top tackle in the draft right now, the way he's looking.
Outstanding once again. I mentioned in the preview that the scheme has changed a lot from last year. It's a lot more gap than zone, and he's still excelling. He's just one of the best players in the country. And really, to me, the face of this Utah team with that offensive line, the way that they can physically dominate you any given week.
Definitely. All right, big win for Utah, staying alive in that Big 12 race and delivering a major, major blow to Cincinnati. Their first conference loss of the year comes this weekend to Utah. Let's get to a big SEC game. Number 5, Georgia surviving Florida in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, 24-20, the final score there. Let's go over the highest graded player, starting off with the Georgia Bulldogs. Highest graded player was wide receiver Zachariah Branch, 78.7, linebacker CJ Allen, 78, Drew Bobo, the center, 72.6, running back Nate Frazier, 70.8, Ellis Robinson, the fourth, the corner, 70.7, and Gunnar Stockton with a very solid 72.5 grade in the win. Let's go over to Florida with their highest grade players in the loss. Safety, Bryce Thornton, 86.5, center Jake Slaughter, 78.2, wide receiver Trey Wilson, 77.8, Devin Moore, the corner, 73.5, Jaden Robinson, the linebacker, 71.7, and DJ Lagway with a 49 grade in the loss for Florida. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
Boy, Georgia's it's just like Rocky Balboa, isn't it? It's just like, look, it doesn't always look pretty, and they take a lot of punches, and they just come through in the biggest moments and find a way to win these fights. You look back at the Tennessee game, finding a way in overtime, the Auburn game with all the adversity in the first half, the Ole Miss game winning the fourth quarter, and then they do it again here. And I think the big thing to me is those money downs, those third and fourth downs. Georgia, 7 for 15 on third down. Gunnar Stockton, a 76.2 passing grade on those downs, and Georgia at almost 8 yards per play. Florida, you look on the other side of it, 2 for 11 on third down, 0 for 2 on fourth down. DJ Lagway on those 2 downs, a 25.7 passing grade, and Florida averaged half a yard, 0.5 yards per play on third and fourth down. There was a lot of this game where Florida threw their best punch on early downs. They got out ahead. Jaden Baugh was really good, but they just could not sustain drives on third down and make plays in the biggest moments. You think about the 4th and 1 stop that Georgia got late in the game that Florida could have won the game with there. I mean, it's just a matter of Georgia and the championship culture and Kirby Smart keeping this team on track through adversity, winning in the big moments. That's all they do is win in the biggest moments of games, and they find a way to come out with victories. It happened again in this game. Florida, in just a handful, a half dozen moments even, crumbled when they couldn't. Georgia won all those moments. They won this ball game, even though it was once again tight.
Yeah, my stat is Florida negative .278 EPA per pass. Florida's pass protection was elite against Georgia's pass rush. They really gave DJ Lagway a lot of time in that pocket. and the receivers did a pretty good job of getting open, only dropped one pass as well. But DJ Lagway, again, just struggled to deliver them the football in this one. A 44.1 passing grade, one big-time throw, 2 turnover-worthy plays, only 166 yards in the air, a 67% adjusted completion rate. His average time to throw was 3.2 seconds against Georgia. It's so hard to win games when your quarterback is that inaccurate and that indecisive. And even Dalton, I know there's a lot of controversy with the throw late in the game to J. Michael Sturdivant that a lot of people thought he caught, and it was incomplete. They ruled it incomplete. But again, if Lagway puts it out there even more, it's a touchdown.
Make a better
Florida.
throw. Yeah.
So it's Lagway, man. It's been rough for him as a sophomore this year. Just not seeing the development that you wanted to see from him after a pretty encouraging true freshman year. And it's just another one where it's like, man, if they had a little bit better play from Lagway, they might have been able to pull off this upset.
It's the same 2 problems for me with DJ. Well, really 3. 1, the footwork. I mean, you just see the development through now basically 2 years of this is just not there. It looks the same as early last year with the bad footwork and all of that. 2, take away the deep ball. What does he have? Not a whole lot. Because last year he was a top 5 deep passer, but that comes with high variance year to year. You can't rely on that necessarily year to year. You have to get better underneath. And number 3, Kirby Smart brought heat on him in the biggest moments of this game. 28.3 passing grade with both of his turnover-worthy plays against the blitz. In a lot of those big third down moments I'm talking about, Kirby Smart brought extra pressure. He made Lagway get rid of the ball sooner than he wanted to, and that's a problem, again, because of the inconsistent footwork and the accuracy. So, I mean, you see the same problems with Florida. They're really talented at a lot of different spots, and they just don't execute in those big moments. And look, credit Gunnar Stockton, credit the running backs, Nate Frazier and Chauncey Bowen, for having good games again. And my most impressive guy, man, you want a middle linebacker? C.J. Allen is your guy. I mean, he is absolutely going to be a starting caliber linebacker in the NFL, especially for what he does in run defense. But he was flying all over the place in this game. 12 tackles, 7 stops, 86 run defense grade. He's got a 92.4 run defense grade this season, top 3 in the country. He's just been unbelievable for Georgia. Look, we got flaws with this Georgia team. The passing game's inconsistent. The pass rush is super inconsistent. There's times where the pass defense lets them down, but C.J. Allen and this run defense, it's a constant. And they get those stops in big moments when they need to, especially those short yardage situations. Allen was just outstanding again in this game. He's been outstanding all season.
Yeah, projected first-round pick in the draft this year and continues to show why he's been one of the best linebackers in the country this year. I want to shout out Zachariah Branch, the wide receiver for Georgia in this one. 10 catches on 10 targets for a career-high 112 yards, 81 yards after the catch, with 54 receiving yards coming after contact. He is a weapon with the ball in his hands. His agility, his shiftiness is unbelievable. He had a down year at USC last year as a true sophomore after, flashing a lot as a true freshman, but he's kind of put it all together this year at Georgia as a junior, and he's showing why he was a top 5 recruit coming out of high school a couple of years ago. Zachariah Branch has just kind of lived up to the hype finally that he had coming out of high school this year.
Well, if you're going to base your passing game in yards after catch, there's not many better guys to do it with than Zachariah Branch and the feet that he has, the speed and agility he has. So no, this was really, I thought it was really a breakout game for him. And you talk about somebody the Gators just couldn't contain on the outside. Branch came up big time. It feels like it's somebody different every week for Georgia, and this was his game.
Yeah, major win for Georgia, surviving their arch rival in Florida, 24-20, and remaining probably a top 5 team in college football going into next week. All right, get to the next game. A upset, big upset in the Big 12. West Virginia beating number 22 Houston 45-35. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Mountaineers. Highest graded player was cornerback Jordan Scruggs. Talk about him later, with a 90 PFF grade out there. Devin Grant, the edge rusher, 80. Asani Redwood had a 76 graded edge rusher. Dior Hubbard, the running back, 74.9. Another cornerback here, Michael Coates Jr., 72.2. And Scotty Fox Jr., the quarterback, with a very solid 70.1 grade in the upset victory. Let's go to Houston now with their highest grade players in the loss. Wide receiver Amari Thomas, 75.8. D-tackle Carlos Allen Jr., 72.9. Tanner Koziol, the star tight end, 72.8. Khalil Afau, the D-tackle, 72.4. Offensive tackle Alvin Ibaseli, the offensive tackle with a 69.3 grade, and then Connor Wigman with a 65.8 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
Just all around, I just want to credit West Virginia for the clean football game that they have played. Think about it this way. They've used 4 different quarterbacks this year, including Scotty Fox. They've used 6 different running backs. Jaheim White out with a season-ending injury. Obviously, that's tough, and we're like, man, you lose that guy, you're going to have an issue running the football. But, I mean, the clean game that West Virginia played here was going to make them really hard to beat against anybody. You take out the 3 kneel downs at the end of the game. Max, they only had 2 plays all game that lost yardage. 2 the entire game, and I believe they were both in the first quarter. That's just unbelievable stuff. 2 negative plays the entire game. No turnovers, no sacks allowed, no drops from the receivers, no fumbles from anybody. And they went 4 for 4 on 4th down when they decided to get aggressive and Rich Rodriguez wanted to really kill this game. That's unbelievable. You do that against anybody. You could beat anybody doing that. I mean, to do that with a guy who's your backup quarterback and you're down to your 4th and 5th running back, I think it is. That's just great stuff, and I think you're going to mention the other side of this now, but that's the difference is West Virginia played as clean a game as any team in the country has this season, and Houston just didn't.
Yeah. Turnovers, man. The turnovers killed Houston in this one. 4 turnovers for the Cougars. West Virginia had 0 turnovers in this game. Mountaineers scored 17 points off of those turnovers, including a pick 6 against them. So even though Houston had more yards than West Virginia, they gave their defense short fields in this one. Just a great job by West Virginia of creating turnovers, capitalizing on those turnovers. That's how you get an upset like this, is by having a turnover margin of 4-0 in this one. So great job by West Virginia's defense, man, of forcing those turnovers from Connor Wigman and that Houston offense and just taking advantage of them with 17 points off of turnovers too.
I mean, how about just Rich Rodriguez in general, getting him to come out and play like this after they had lost 5 straight games. And you got a ranked team coming in there. Houston's got all the momentum in the world. They just got huge wins left and right. They beat Arizona State. I mean, they're getting huge wins, and all of a sudden West Virginia goes into Houston and just says, no, we're going to play our brand of football, and you're still going to have to beat us, even though they've lost 5 straight games. I really thought the Jordan Scruggs pick 6, I mean, that was the backbreaker, right? Houston driving into West Virginia territory again. The offense did look good for a lot of this game. They still scored 35 points despite the 4 turnovers, but that pick 6 that made it a 10-point game, that was really that was tough because this Houston team, their defense had been so good all season, and this was the one game that their defense was not up to snuff, and this was a game where they really needed Connor Wigman to be safe with the football and, carry him through a shootout, right? I know it's tough to outscore a team that scored 45 points on you, but you really needed to be safer with the football here. Again, one team played a clean game, one didn't. Credit Rich Rodriguez and his Mountaineer team for what they did and keeping themselves at least alive for bowl eligibility. And even if not, man, to come off of 5 straight losses and find a way to go into Houston and win this game, that's unbelievable.
Who was your most impressive
that's great stuff.
Part of this game?
I think just the run game in general, the way they controlled the pace of this game offensively with the run game. Dior Hubbard, like you mentioned, 108 yards and a touchdown. Scotty Fox, running in passing was awesome. 65 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, also a passing touchdown in the first half. Sincere Bowers was 65 yards and a touchdown. West Virginia, this is really, look, it's going to be with different players. They got to get more talent in there in the future. Rich Rod's got to recruit and get in the portal and everything. But this kind of game, this is the kind of culture he wants to bring to this team. They want to run the crap out of the football and be the more physical team. They just need more talent in the future to do it. But with the crew that he has to go in and win this game against this defense that had been so good all year, credit to their team, but especially the run game on offense. They controlled the pace the entire way.
Yeah, I got to shout out Jordan Scruggs, who, like you said before, had the biggest play of the game with the 80-yard pick 6 off of Connor Wigman. Only 1 catch allowed overall on 2 targets for 10 yards. So he allowed 1 catch, and he had to catch himself as well. 25 passer rating allowed, and usually with Houston's offense, with the offensive line struggling the way it does, usually the way to beat Houston's offense is with your pass rush. West Virginia didn't really have much of a pass rush in this game. The secondary really shined against Connor Wigman, and Jordan Scruggs was the star of that secondary with that pick 6 and only 10 yards allowed total in coverage.
I mean, you just look at this West Virginia team in general and the secondary, just the big place, right? You don't always have to hold them to 14 points to win a ball game, right? It's not, obviously you're not Ohio State giving up 7 points a game or anything like that, but you look at them making the biggest plays of the game in the biggest moments, and Scruggs with the biggest one because, again, that was a 3-point game when that play did happen. Houston was driving. Connor Wigman was starting to find his rhythm again, and then that pick six really just put things away. When you start to get ahead 2 scores with a West Virginia team running the football the way they were running it, that's when you run into a real problem.
Yep, huge win for West Virginia, taking down a top 25 team in Houston and also delivering a major blow to Houston's hopes of maybe winning the Big 12 and making the college football playoff. Let's get to another top 25 team that did win, though. Number 23, USC, beating Nebraska 21-17. Let's go over the highest grade players, starting off with the USC Trojans. Highest grade player was linebacker Eric Gentry, 78.5. To Nuke Hines, the wide receiver, 73. King Miller, the running back, 72.7. Kamari Ramsey didn't have a 724 grade. It was a 72.4 grade. Elijah Page, the tackle, 69.9. And Jaden Mayava, 68.1. Let's go over to Nebraska with their highest grade players in the loss. Cornerback Donovan Jones, 76.4. Running back Emmett Johnson, 75.5. Cornerback Andrew Marshall, 74.5. Center Justin Evans, 71.3. Keona Davis, the edge rusher, 68.9. And Dylan Raiola with a 58.6 grade in the loss. Unfortunately, Dalton, Nebraska kind of wearing those blackout unis that were gorgeous, but they're wearing black to their own funeral because their playoff hopes are unfortunately now dead after this loss to USC.
Yeah, that's done. They don't have a road at 9-3. They don't have enough good wins, and even they had their best win of the year was against Cincinnati. It was a great win, but it's too many flaws with this offense. And look, to me, you really look at this game though, and it was played at a pace that I think Nebraska would want when you're going against this USC team that can be so fast paced. And Lincoln Riley's offense, Jaden Mayava, all the weapons, everything like that. This game was played at Nebraska's pace. It was 14-6, and then it felt like even just mentally the turning point was when Dylan Raiola got hurt, right? The fumble, first of all, was a strip sack and a turnover, a fumble that prevented Nebraska from at least kicking a field goal, going up 2 scores in this game, which would have made a huge difference when you talk about the way Nebraska's secondary was playing. Their pass defense has been excellent all year, and if they got up 2 scores on USC, Jaden Mayava only completed 9 passes in this game, right? I mean, Nebraska's secondary was outstanding, but that single play just seemed to flip a switch for USC, and they went, you know what? If he's out, we have to win this football game. We have to come away out of here with a win. You look at even the offensive grades before and after the Raiola injury. Before that injury, Nebraska, 65.5. Not outstanding, but they were up 14-6. USC with a 58. After that injury, 57.9 offensive grade for Nebraska. Obviously struggled to throw the football with their backup quarterback out there. USC, 74.3. It just felt like the switch flipped. When Raiola didn't come back out for the next drive, USC just felt like we have to. We cannot. We have an opportunity here. The starting quarterback is out. Yes, we're down a score. The fumble saved us from being down 2 scores. It just felt like for the 2 drives, even just 2 touchdown drives was all they needed, USC, in a low-scoring game like this. That was the moment right there that Nebraska's season ended because they just could not throw the football after he came back out of the game.
I mean, listen, they couldn't throw the football even when he was in the game, too. So
no, it was tough. It was tough, but you feel like
in a tie,
if USC ties the game and then Raiola maybe can put together one more drive, and I mean they put together a field goal drive on the ground. I'm not saying it would have been easy because certainly nothing's been easy for this Nebraska offense this year.
No, of course it played a part, but I want to give more credit to the USC secondary because they were shutting down Raiola even when he was out there too. That's really my set to tell stories that both teams, I mean, they were not doing well passing wise in this one. And I said in the preview, this game could come down to who runs the ball better. And it really, both teams did run the ball really well, but both teams' pass defenses stepped up in this one. USC, negative .367 EPA per pass. Mayava, only a 48% adjusted completion rate with a 57.2 passing grade. Ironically, his worst passing grade since his game against Nebraska last year. Nebraska, negative .372 EPA per pass, 98 total yards passing. Raiola obviously struggled, went down with an injury, and then TJ Lateef came in the game too. Both of them had passing grades below a 62 in this one. Just both secondaries dominated. It felt like no receivers were really getting open for either team out there, and both quarterbacks, or really all 3 quarterbacks, were missing throws in this game too.
And to your point, that's been the most frustrating part of watching this Nebraska offense all year is they just can't win downfield. They can't. Raiola, once again, 2 for 7 on 10-plus yard throws in this game. Nebraska had one explosive pass the whole game. And again, you're right. Credit USC and Kamari Ramsey and their secondary for playing an outstanding game. But this has been a problem. Look, they overhauled the receiving core, and they just don't throw the ball downfield well. And that's been the difference in their season to me, is they're not explosive enough in the passing game in these big games. At least if Jaden Maiava struggles, there's a few big plays coming with it in between, right? And this is probably the worst game he's played all year, but he found a way, right? He found a way when it mattered most, and he found a way once again when Mekhi Lemon didn't have a great game. I think he only had, 18 yards in this game? They just found a way to do it. And again, we talked about it, rode the freshman running back King Miller to, 120 or 130 yards on the ground. Emmett Johnson on the other side was great, too. These are two teams that really got into kind of an old-school Big Ten West game, right? If we still had divisions, it would look exactly like a Big Ten West game. You go, oh, that's normal on this side of the division. But, USC finding a way to win a defensive clash like this, you don't see that too often from these Lincoln Riley coach teams. It's big, and it sets them up for the stretch run with a couple of huge games coming up that they could really still be in this playoff race with a couple more wins. Got to find the consistency again on offense, but they were really good on defense in this game, and that made the difference.
Who do you want to shout out as your most impressive player from this game?
Their two linebackers were outstanding. I know, obviously, Emmett Johnson got a good amount on the ground, and as expected because he's been great all season. But Eric Gentry, 8 tackles, 2 stops, a forced fumble that wasn't recovered by USC, but it was where Latif was scrambling outside the pocket. Put the ball in your outside hand, please. That kills me. But an 86.6 coverage grade for Gentry. Desmond Stevens, 12 tackles, 7 stops in this game. The linebackers really stepped up, and they combined to allow just 1 catch for 1 yard in coverage. They were not just the secondary, but the linebackers were outstanding too.
Yeah, I want to shout out King Miller, the running back. Like you said, both him and Emmett Johnson were both great in this one. I'll shout out the winning running back in this game, though. Ran for 129 yards and a touchdown with 3 broken tackles, 67 yards after contact. He kept USC's offense on schedule just enough in this one, with the receivers struggling, with Jaden Maiava really struggling too, and they still won this game because of how good King Miller was on the ground. And really just an incredible story and what he's done for USC this year when Waymon Jordan goes down with an injury, Eli Sanders goes down with an injury, and you got a redshirt freshman walk-on and King Miller playing the way he's playing right now with an 83 rushing grade now on the season for King Miller. And I'll say right now, Dalton, this guy is making a serious case for the Burlsworth Trophy as the best former walk-on in college football.
It's a good call. I mean, the way he stepped up the last few games for him, especially we saw the Michigan game, he was outstanding. He was terrific in this game, and he's going to need to continue to be, right? I look at this USC team. You talk about sneaky teams with that road to 10-2. I'm going to tell you something. If USC ends up 10-2, they win these last 4 games, they're going to the playoff because their 2 losses are down to the wire against Illinois and at Notre Dame, who's also very good. But you have a win over Michigan. You have a win over a solid Nebraska team. You've got Northwestern, Iowa, at Oregon, and UCLA coming up. You win those last 4 with those wins against Iowa and Oregon, who are also playoff contenders. They might be a team that sneaks in if they were to beat Oregon. They might get in over Oregon if that's the borderline decision there. So, I mean, you're talking about head-to-head like before with Notre Dame and Miami. This USC team is very much alive. Couple of really tough games, especially in those middle 2 with Iowa and Oregon. But Oregon's the only road game there. So there's a road here. There's a road. It's a hard road, and you're going to keep having to win close games. But USC is firmly in this playoff race for now.
And I'll tell you what, man, don't overlook Northwestern or UCLA right now either. Northwestern 5-3 on the year. UCLA, I know they're 3-5, but they've been obviously very spunky all year too, especially since firing their head coach. So I think USC right now is looking like a potential playoff sleeper, but they got to get through these 4 games coming up, and all 4 of those games will be really, really interesting games that they have the rest of the season. All right, let's get to the next game. Virginia surviving California once again. Number 15, Virginia winning 31-21. The final score there. Score with the highest grade player, starting off with the Virginia Cavaliers. Highest grade player was their star linebacker Cam Robinson, 91.9. Ethan Minter, the safety, 80.8. Wide receiver Eli Wood, 76.9. D tackle Jacob Holmes, 73.7. Edge rusher Daniel Rickert, 73.6. And Chandler Morris with an 81.4 grade in the win for the Cavaliers. Let's go over the highest grade players for Cal. The highest grade player for Cal was also a linebacker in Aaron Hampton, 80.8. Drew Polidor Jr., the safety, 78.4. Hezekiah Masses, the corner, 77.2. Brent Austin, the corner, 76.2. Tron Grizel, the wide receiver, 70.2. And the quarterback, Jaron Keave Sangapalotele, with a 57.5 grade in the loss for the true freshman. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
How about Virginia just getting an outstanding game from their offensive line?
Yeah.
Really, to me, won this game in the trenches. I'll start with their pass protection, an 89 pass blocking grade as a team. That is the best for any Virginia game since week 4 of 2017. This is their best pass blocking game in 8 years. And we've seen in past games, and look, this game they only needed to almost go to overtime to win this one. So we're getting better with not lengthening these games out. But
Two-score win, actually, for Virginia.
Ended up a two-score win. I think, what was it, backdoor cover for anybody who had Virginia, right?
They backdoor covered.
Boy, oh boy, that's
What was their last two-score win? I got to look it up real quick.
Do they have one this year? Do they have any this year?
They had to have at least one, I
would think so.
I'll look it up real quick.
But, I mean, you talk about, look, you mentioned it, survive and advance, but this pass protection was outstanding. Chandler Morris only pressured on 6 of his 41 dropbacks on the day, and the offensive line was only charged with 1 of those. He had all the time in the world in the pocket to work with, or if he needed to scramble, then he took off and ran 4 times for 49 yards. But no, I mean, this offensive line to me really set a tone in this game, both in the run and passing game, but the pass protection, outstanding. Their best pass blocking grade in over 8 years for Virginia.
The last two-score win or more was back on September 21st when they beat Stanford by 28 points in their 4th game of the season.
I mean, whatever. Overtime wins, almost overtime wins, last minute.
A win's a win.
A win is a win right now if you're Virginia. I mean, sole possession of first place in the ACC. And I mean, look, you've got obviously a pretty favorable schedule, although always be careful with that because, Max, as we say on the NFL show, winnable games are only winnable if you win them. It's
true.
Right? We say that all the time. We can get used to that. But, look, they've got Wake Forest, spunky.
Yeah.
Right? At times, right? At Duke, what a huge – I can't wait for that game in a couple weeks. Virginia at Duke is actually quietly a huge game. And then, of course, the rivalry game against Virginia Tech. But even just winning 2 out of those 3, you feel like you're in a pretty darn good spot. You'd prefer to win the Duke game because tiebreakers and things like that. But, I mean, Tony Elliott also – I mean, talk about him talk about a guy who could win Coach of the Year nationally. This team is 8-1, and they're in first place by themselves.
A guy who was on
ACC.
the hot seat going into the year.
Seriously, I mean, they are 3 games to go. They're in sole possession of first place in the ACC. It's unbelievable what they're doing. But to me, this game, and you're going into the other side of this real quick, the offensive line was outstanding in this game.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the rushing difference in this one. I mentioned in the preview how Cal's run defense has been a major, major issue this year, and once again, it's a major issue in this game. And also, Virginia's run defense was incredible in this one as well. Virginia had 202 rushing yards in this one. Cal only had 58 yards on the ground. Cal only averaged 2.8 yards per carry. Virginia averaged 4.9 yards per carry. Virginia had 8 explosive runs. Cal only had 1 explosive run. Cal really struggled to contain Jamari Taylor and Chandler Morris, the quarterback, on the ground in this one. And Cal just put way, way too much pressure on their true freshman quarterback and Jaron Keave Sangapalotele to win this game with his arm. Just an unbelievable effort by Virginia's run D in this game to completely shut down Cal's run game. And then also Virginia's run game was really good against a Cal run defense that struggled all year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they were the more physical team in this game, and they're really finding that identity. And I think there's just something to be said. Yes, they're all close games, but you talk about close games against good teams, right? Florida State in that game when they were the big underdog in that game. Louisville, Louisville's in this race. That tiebreaker against Louisville could be a huge factor here as we get into the towards the ACC title game, right? Even the game against North Carolina, look, you didn't play your best ball game. The game against Washington State, you didn't play your best ball game, but finding ways to win. And this was not easy, okay? This was a West Coast trip against a Cal team that was feeling pretty good coming into it. This is not an easy road trip to make these coast to coast. In Virginia, they have set themselves up now so well for the last 3 weeks. Did anybody in the country, when you really look at the other results, especially in this conference, did anybody in the country have a better week than Virginia? I would argue no.
True.
I would argue no. With
That's
Georgia
true.
Tech losing, with Miami losing, and with all their talent, that's a looming threat. But they have 2 losses. It's going to be tough for them to get back into the ACC title game. I don't know if anybody really on the week for the weekend on the whole had a better weekend than Virginia this week.
I would agree with that. Yeah, they are really set up nicely in the ACC title race right now. Who was the most impressive player for you in this game?
Look, he was protected like crazy, but I have to give credit to Chandler Morris. I mean, you mentioned the run game, but he took advantage of the passing situations as well with all those clean pockets. He was clean. He didn't throw a touchdown. You know, you're going to see in the box score, well, he didn't throw a touchdown. Would he just get carried all day? No, I thought he was dealing all day, right? I mean, 24, 36, one big-time throw, 4 carries for 49 yards, 3 of those explosive runs. I mean, Chandler Morris, when he plays clean football, is pretty darn good. And there's other days where he's going to need to make more explosive plays maybe, but for the role he had to play in this game, I thought he was just outstanding.
I want to shout out the highest graded player for Virginia. That was Cam Robinson, 91.4 coverage grade. He had an interception and 2 coverage stops, 75.4 run defense grade with a tackle for loss. Also had a pressure as a pass rusher as well. He has made some massive, massive plays for Virginia's defense all season long, and he did so once again in this one against Cal in this one too. So Cam Robinson, man, he's been a star linebacker for Virginia's defense all season long, and he was the best player on the field, in my opinion, against the Golden Bears.
Feels like somebody different every week on Virginia's defense, doesn't it? It could be Robinson, Daniel Rickert was good, Devin Neal's been great, Mitchell Melton with the pass rush. I mean, they've just had so many different contributors on this team, and it feels like somebody comes up big every single week in these close spots. Look, to me, the goal, obviously the goal is win all 3 of these last 3 games, but even if they win 2 out of 3, they got to feel really, really good about their chances of going to the ACC title game. And you know what? With the magic they have working, why not? Why can't they win the ACC at this point? I mean, we're really at that point where you go, it's too late to start doubting them now, right? They just got to go out there and win the games and keep playing well. If they keep playing in the trenches like they did in this game, boy, they got a real shot to win this conference.
So top 15 team in Virginia remains undefeated in ACC play with a 10-point win over Cal. All right, let's get to the final game in our review. That was North Texas beating Navy 31-17 in what is a massive result for the Group of 5 playoff race right now. Let's go over the highest graded player, starting off with the North Texas Mean Green. Their highest graded player was running back Caleb Hawkins, who was outstanding. The true freshman, 84.3 grade. Linebacker Ethan Wisłowski, 83.3. Quentin Hammonds, the safety, 82.1. Trey Fields, the linebacker, 79.1. Bryson Haynes, the edge rusher, 75.5. And Drew Messmaker with a really good 80 grade in the win for North Texas. Let's go over the highest grade players for Navy now in their loss. Highest grade player was their fullback, Eli Heidenreich, 81 grade. Irabanois Uniha, the corner, 72.1. Cam Nichols, the center, 69.5. Alex Teza, the running back, 66.9. Justin Ross, 64.8 at safety. And Blake Horvath, the quarterback, with a 67.2 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
To me, much like we talked about earlier with the Vanderbilt game and the Georgia Tech game, when you have a run-heavy team, and there's nobody more run-heavy than Navy, obviously, as an academy school, it helps so much to get ahead of them early. I thought there was a statement made from North Texas in this game on their first 2 drives, going down, playing with tempo, scoring touchdowns basically like it was nothing, going up 14-0 early, being up 24-10 at halftime. You make an academy school like this, a team that wants to run the football more than anybody, you make them come from behind, they're going to have major problems, and North Texas did not let off the gas, especially in the first half. 0.334 EPA per play in the first half. 7.3 yards per play in the first half, 8 explosive plays. Caleb Hawkins was outstanding. Drew Messmaker was outstanding. The defense made stops in the second half when they needed to, when it looked like Navy had some life. But the big thing for me was the way that North Texas started this game, especially on their first 2 drives, ending the first quarter 14-0. It's exactly where you want to be against Navy. Make them beat you throwing the football because they want to run the option and all those different run schemes you talked about in the preview. It's just how you have to beat one of these run-heavy teams. It looked a lot to me like the Georgia Tech loss, like the Vanderbilt loss. The team that got ahead early was the one that won this football game. In North Texas, because they got off to a fast start, they could contain the running game as much as possible.
Yeah, my stat is Navy just could not finish drives in this one. 3 empty trips inside the 25-yard line for the midshipmen in this one. North Texas' defense came up huge in big spots in this game. In the first quarter, Blake Horvath fumbled the ball on the 24-yard line. In the fourth quarter, the Mean Green stood tall on a 4th and 2 on the 9-yard line. Later in the fourth quarter, North Texas picked off Blake Horvath in the end zone as well. Navy's offense overall was pretty good. They averaged 7 yards per play against North Texas, but they could not finish drives. And 3 times inside the 25-yard line, and you get 0 points on those 3 drives right there. It's just not good enough for the Navy to win this game.
No, for sure. They're a team that has to run the football well early. They have to finish in the red zone. And you could feel when North Texas got that early lead that Navy felt the pressure. Even the onside kick, it just felt like it just wasn't necessary. Just keep playing your game. But they felt the pressure of falling behind a team on the road with a really dynamic offense. And look, I think that's just, again, it's all a product to me of North Texas getting ahead early and making Navy just play a little bit outside themselves. That's a big thing you want to do against this team. Make them beat you left-handed. They could not do it.
Who was your most impressive player in North Texas' win?
I think 2 huge plays. I think the biggest play of the game, right, individual play of the game, actually came in the third quarter when Navy felt like they had a pulse and Blake Horvath started finding a rhythm. Quentin Hammonds, the safety, the one-handed interception he made on the sideline as Horvath was rolling out, tried to get the ball downfield. That was a top 2 or 3 play I saw all day yesterday. And then a game-sealing interception playing a deep half late in the fourth quarter. Both times when Navy felt like, okay, maybe we have a little bit of life, Quentin Hammonds took it away, a 91 coverage grade, the 2 interceptions. I think especially the first one, I could argue, was really, as Navy was finding momentum, I could argue that was the biggest individual play in the game, especially for what it was. It was just a terrific play with the one hand. So Quentin Hammonds deserves this credit because if there was anybody that made the biggest plays on defense for this North Texas team, it was him.
I got to shout out guy, man. Caleb Hawkins, what a star running back that North Texas has this year, the true freshman right now. He was a superstar against Navy. 33 carries for a career high of 197 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground for Caleb Hawkins. 11 broken tackles for a 33% forced missed tackle rate. This guy's a freight train in space out there. There was plenty of times where he was trucking Navy defenders out there. He's been one of the best running backs in America as just a true freshman. He entered this week 7th in the country with an 87.3 PFF grade. And once again, shout out to our guy, Tyler Browning, who shouted out Caleb Hawkins to me a few weeks ago before I really knew who he was. I watched his tape, and he was really right about him. And Hawkins is like announcing himself to the college football world right now, the way he's playing as a true freshman.
So this is going to be fun, too. And with these American standings, with North Texas in the position they put themselves in with this win, because you've got 6 teams in this conference with 1 conference loss. Navy, Memphis, North Texas, Tulane, USF, and East Carolina's looming down there too. Probably an underdog amongst the group, but only 1 conference loss. Big win over my upset pick in Temple. Appreciate that. But you look at so many of those teams still have to play each other in the last few weeks of the year. North Texas doesn't. They're done with the hard part of this. They've got it kind of favorable. Their last 3 games are UAB, Rice, and Temple. Now, the one thing that looms over North Texas is the loss of a tiebreaker to USF. It would really help them if USF lost another game. But North Texas, they've got a road here to 11-1. They've got a road here to the American title game. These other teams are going to beat each other up. Tulane has to play Memphis. Navy has to play Memphis and USF. East Carolina's got to play Memphis. All these teams have to play each other. And North Texas doesn't. They may be the biggest beneficiary of all the carnage going on around them as long as they don't find themselves in an upset situation in those last 3 games. Be careful at UAB. They already beat Memphis as well, but they're in a really good spot. This was a huge win for North Texas, and you know what? They're, to me, as prime a playoff candidate as any team in this conference, and they may get talked about less than Memphis or USF, but they're right there.
No, they absolutely are. Yeah, it's a wide-open American Conference right now. And North Texas, with this win over Navy, it's big for them. And now Navy, all of a sudden, Navy's got a brutal final 3 games against Notre Dame, final 4 games, I should say. They got Notre Dame, South Florida, Memphis. Then the playoff is announced, and then obviously they play Army after that too. But those 3 games, man, against Notre Dame, South Florida, and Memphis, they need to bounce back quickly. They probably won't beat Notre Dame, but if you want to make the AAC, the American title game, you got to beat South Florida and you got to beat Memphis. So Navy's got to bounce back after this game in a couple weeks against South Florida, Memphis, or Navy. All of a sudden, we could be looking at a team that goes from undefeated to having 4 straight losses.
And Navy's other problem is, and I know there's certain rules in the American about this, because they play a conference game against Army after the season essentially is over. And I think it wasn't an issue for Army last year because I believe they went undefeated in conference, correct? They went undefeated. The problem is if you're talking about a situation where two other teams are 7-1 and they're 6-1 now with this loss, Navy's going to lose out because they're a game short, right? Army didn't have that issue last year because they were undefeated. They were clearly one of the top two, but that's going to be a problem if you end up with two of these teams. Let's say a USF and a North Texas, Navy's just going to fall behind, and they would fall behind both of those anyway because USF is playing them. But I mean, you have a scenario like that where Navy could end up with just the one loss in conference and still miss out because of the one extra that doesn't get played till afterward.
Yeah, big win for North Texas in the American Conference, beating Navy 31-17. Before we move on to our new playoff bracket and our updated Heisman race right now, got to talk about the sponsor of the show. That is Fabric by Gerber Life. Parenting is filled with high-pressure decisions, and it can be difficult to tell if you've made the right choice for your kid's future. But here's a simple decision that you can make today that could have a meaningful impact on your kid's future: opening a UGMA Kids Investment Account with Fabric to start their investment journey early and give them a financial head start. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kids investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. Kids can't invest when they're minors, but a UGMA Kids Investment Account allows them to invest on their behalf now, gives those investments more time to grow. There are no contribution limits, multiple tax advantages, and they're SIPC insured up to $500,000. Plus, no commission fees and just a low, flat monthly maintenance fee. Fabric has partnered with Gerber Life, trusted by millions of families like yours for over 50 years. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. That's meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. This is a paid promotion for the Fabric UGMA product and not for investment advisory services. Portfolios are managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Custodial services are provided by Apex Clear Corporation. All investing subject to risk. Terms may apply. Learn more at meetfabric.com. All right. Let's get to the Heisman segment right now. So after week 10 of college football, Dalton, let's give our updated top 5 candidates for the Heisman Trophy right now. Give me your 5-1. Who are your top 5 candidates?
Number 5, I'm going to go with a defensive guy here. I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to give you an honorable mention real quick. I want to throw out there as the second highest passing grade in the country. How about the year? Darian Mensah, the year he's having. I know Duke has lost some games in some weird fashions. Darian Mensah's been outstanding this year. I want him in there as my honorable mention, and he's got, like I mentioned in a couple weeks, big game against Virginia coming up, and Duke's not out of the ACC title race either with the win at Clemson yesterday. He's my honorable. Number 5, let's go to Texas Tech. Give me the linebacker, Jacob Rodriguez. What a game he had against Kansas State this week. 2 more forced fumbles, Max. He's got 7 on the year. He is the second highest graded defensive player in the country. A sliver now behind Reuben Bain Jr. This guy, I'm going to tell you first and foremost, he needs to win the Butkus. Yeah. He, to me, just has to. He has been so good for that Texas Tech defense. As much as we talk about David Bailey in the pass rush, and Bailey, to be honest with you, might be in a top 10 of this as well, but Jacob Rodriguez and what he's done in the big win that Texas Tech got at Kansas State, they took a few punches early, but he has just been unbelievable this year. He could finish the year as the highest graded defensive player in the country. He's number 5. Number 4, Haynes King, Georgia Tech, and I know they lost this game, but he had, over 520 yards of total offense. He was not the reason they lost this game to NC State. He did everything he possibly could have, and he's the 4th highest graded quarterback. I believe tied for the 3rd highest graded quarterback in the country right now behind Sayan and Mensah. Haynes King's been outstanding all year. I'm going with him, number 4. Number 3, I've got Fernando Mendoza. Obviously, the numbers are really good. The grades are really good. I thought he was once again solid this week against Maryland. Had a bad interception early. He was solid, obviously good enough to win, and, good enough to win gets you 55-10 when Kurt Zignetti's coaching that Hoosier team. But I've got Mendoza 3. Still curious to see if and when they get to that Big Ten title game. Let's see it on the biggest stage there. Number 2, had the week off, but I still have Ty Simpson and all the big games he's won for Alabama. Just been outstanding all year. And number 1, to me, the way he's played this year at Ohio State, Julian Sand, I think actually is pretty clear cut. I would take him as a Heisman right now.
Yeah.
He walked into this game, Max. He walked into this game with an 80% completion percentage and an 85.5% adjusted completion rate, and they went up. He played Penn State, and both those numbers went up in this game. He's just was at 91.7 passing, and that's still a darn talented defense. All right, that's that Penn State team. They're struggling offensively, and that's the reason they can't win. They can't score. They don't have a quarterback right now. But that defense is still really good with several probably high draft picks on it. He doesn't miss. I mean, he is in his redshirt freshman year on levels of accuracy with Burrow and Bo Nix and C.J. Stroud in their final seasons of college. This kid, not only would I pick him to win the Heisman, he's the best quarterback in the country. I'm in on that. I know there's so many names. There's Mendoza, Simpson, Dante Moore, all these. I think he's the best quarterback in the country.
And I'll say it right now, I don't think it's close.
It may not.
I don't think it's close.
No, he's special. This is not just those two receivers carrying him. He's making special throws every week. He's not just the most accurate quarterback in the country this year. He's setting records that were set by, like in our quarterback charting, by Joe Burrow and Bo Nix and the most accurate seasons we've seen. I mean, what was it? 23 attempts, and he had 300-something yards yesterday. Was it? What's the exact number?
316 yards on 23 attempts. And he completed 20 of his 23 attempts.
Just silly. What do you have, 14 yards per? Is that?
Yep.
Against Penn State.
4 touchdowns, no picks.
That's still a great defense, and that game was close at halftime. They didn't handle the end of the first half right, and it was close. But, I mean, I don't know. If he throws a ball like that, they're not losing.
No.
And he's throwing the ball like that every single week.
So my top 5, I have at number 5, I do have Haynes King as well. I know the loss is brutal for Georgia Tech, but this guy had over 500 yards of offense. He's one of the 5 highest graded quarterbacks in the country. He still deserves a lot of love in this Heisman race right now for having Georgia Tech off to the start they've had. So he still stays in my top 5 even after losing to NC State this past weekend to no fault of his own. At number 4, I have a running back in Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, who I think has all of a sudden overtaken Ahmad Hardy as the best running back in the country this year at least. Jeremiah Love, of course, was the best running back in the country going into the year, and he has played like it so far, man. Over a 90 PFF grade so far this season. He had a long touchdown run against Boston College yesterday. Just you give that guy a sliver of space, and he's gone, man. Jeremiah Love, the best running back in college football. Right now, my number 4 Heisman candidate. At number 3, I have Ty Simpson, the quarterback at Alabama. Again, he was off this past weekend, but he has been phenomenal for Alabama. He's played in a lot of huge games at Alabama this year, too, and he has consistently been the best player on the field, it feels like, in every single one of those games. He has been phenomenal in his first year as a starter for Alabama. Number 2 for me is Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback at Indiana. Like Dalton said, he's been really good, really, all year for the number 2 team in college football. Mendoza has been phenomenal, but at number 1 is, of course, Julian Sand. This guy is unfreaking believable right now, and I've said it before, my comp for him and what I've seen from him when I watched the tape back was like Joe Burrow. It's very reminiscent of that 2019 LSU team where they had Joe Burrow, they had Jamar Chase, they had Justin Jefferson, and they had a stacked defense. Ohio State, they got Julian Sand, they got Jeremiah Smith, they got Carnell Tate, they got a stacked defense too. But what led LSU to that national title was that their quarterback, Joe Burrow, was one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football history. Julian Sand could shatter all those records that we saw at PFF with Joe Burrow. He has been unfreaking believable, and Joe Burrow did it as a redshirt senior. Julian Sand is doing it as a redshirt freshman right now. This kid still has another year of college football after this season. What he has done this year at Dalton since week 6, Julian Sand has a 94.4 PFF grade. Week 6 against Minnesota, 91.5 grade. Illinois, 86. Wisconsin, 91.4. Penn State, 92.2. This kid has been on fire lately, and it feels like Ohio State finally realized what they have at quarterback in Julian Sand, and they're letting him air it out right now. He was throwing 60-yard handoffs yesterday against Penn State. This guy is, I don't even care what else you want to say. Simpson's been great. Mendoza's been great. Anyone else, Marcel Reed, anyone else. Julian Sand, by far, the best quarterback in college football right now.
I'm with you. I mean, it just, you mentioned Burrow, and I've mentioned a bunch of times Breeze. I think the mechanics to me and the delivery are so reminiscent of Breeze. And that's why the accuracy is so good. I mean, and it's clean every single time. And even, I even loved the play yesterday down on the goal line when they gave him the bootleg to throw into the back corner of the end zone, I believe, to Max Clare. It's smooth, even on the move. It feels like you watch him and you just go, he doesn't miss. And I'll say it again, he's not being just carried by these receivers. He's just taking advantage of what he has. It is unbelievable. I mean, the deep shot to Jeremiah with double coverage, splitting the quarters in double coverage. It's not like an easy throw. It's a 55-yard dime with about 2 feet of separation into double coverage. And it like you mentioned, he couldn't walk it to him better. This level of accuracy.
So you're saying you could be quarters coverage over the top, is what you're saying?
It's a theory. It's a theory. You can at least try. At least when you have Jeremiah Smith, you can do it. It's certainly a theory. You can.
Oh, boy.
You can. It is possible. It is at least possible, Max, that you can do it. But if you have Sayan and Jeremiah Smith, it's a little more than possible. It's probably likely you're going to do it anyway. But no, I mean, he's unreal. The other thing, I just want to point out Jeremiah Love real quick that you mentioned. Did you see on that 96-yard touchdown run? He was looking at Notre Dame's sideline. He was like looking and celebrating with his own sideline at his own 40. He got to his own 40 on a 96-yarder and started just looking over at the sideline celebrating. 60 yards to go, and he's like, no, I'm gone. We're good. And honestly, we were there for the playoff game, reminiscent of the 98-yarder he had.
Yes.
That
broke the game wide open.
When you have a home run speed like that, that's just silly. But Jeremiah Love, he's getting raging hot, and that Notre Dame offense, they just keep rolling.
Kevin Chavez has a stat in the chat. I got to check it because if it is right, it's unbelievable. He said on 30-plus yard throws this year, Julian Sayin to Carnell Tate is 9 for 10 on 30-plus yard throws.
It's silly. I could certainly
nuts,
I could take a minute later to look at that, but I'm sure.
When you have a quarterback that is that accurate and a receiver that is that good in jump ball situations, it's just 9 for 10 on 30-plus yard throws that's a ridiculous number.
Oh, and I'll say it again. Bo Nix before this season had our record for adjusted completion rate. Since 2015 of doing this. Sayin's breaking it right now, and he's got a significantly higher average depth of target. And he's the highest graded deep thrower in 97.5 deep passing rate. He's the highest graded deep passer in college football. He's special. He's not just good. He's not just the receivers, whatever you want. He's special.
And I know they're the favorite to win it all this year. And I was saying to Eli before the show, Dalton, I mean, with him, Jeremiah coming back, they could three-peat.
Oh, and their defense is young.
Yeah, they could three-peat.
They're going to lose a couple of pieces, but
when was the last three-peat we had? Oh, it was a long time ago. Georgia was trying to do it a few years ago, and I remember looking it up for a stat for an article I was writing. It was a long time ago. Last three-peat.
I mean, let's get to two first.
Let's get to two first.
We'll get to two first. You look at having you have the best quarterback in the country in the 30s.
Wow.
It's been almost 100 years since
Minnesota was the last three-peat national champion. That's
that
pretty crazy. We'll get to two first. Let's get to two first. We'll get to that first. Ohio's just got to love what they got in the future now.
No, I mean, this is just – no, he's special. I mean, 20 of 27 on deep balls, 20 or more yards this year. 20 out of – if you're hovering around 50%, you're great. He's 20 for 27.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. I mean, now he's just got to beat Michigan.
For anyone who's been kind of underwhelmed by the quarterback classes in last year's draft and even this year's draft too. I mean, 2027 with that guy coming down the pipeline. I mean, if your New York Jets should be losing every single game next year to get that guy.
We're probably going to end up taking one this year is the problem.
Well,
I mean,
I would take him. And
you're the one who's been mocking it. You took Dante Moore the other day.
I would take Dante Moore.
I took Ruben Bain last time we did.
If they're bad enough next year, I will take Julian Sayin, not think twice about it. I'd be like, I'll trade Dante if I need to someone else. Even though I love Dante Moore, he's a phenomenal
Somebody's
player.
getting a special one when they get Sayin.
Oh, God. Man. The race for Julian Sayin next year is going to be – and him and Jeremiah – man, that draft next year is going to be ridiculous. But – that wraps up our Heisman segment. Julian Sayin right now is the betting favorite. So we've been shouting it from the rooftops, Dalton. Feels like for weeks that he should be the betting favorite. He is now the betting favorite right now, and our producer Eli is very happy about that because he got Julian Sayin at juicy odds a few weeks ago.
I think he got him 18-1 a couple.
18-1
3 weeks ago or something.
18-1.
Yeah. Oh no,
after losing his JT bet last year, he might cash pretty juicy.
No, he's still a. But you know what? Big Ten title game right now.
That could be
for now. We're tracking to get Sayin versus Mendoza.
I think that will be for the Heisman.
That probably decides that too, along with the Big Ten title. It's going to be fun.
So let's quickly upset picks. We sucked this week. We didn't hit any of them. Shout out the chat though; they did get one of the upset picks right. They got Duke beating Clemson. Otherwise, everything else did not hit. Tough week.
I was mad this week, and I'll tell you why. So This week, actually, last week when I did FAU over Navy, I just was like, screw it, I'm doing it blind, right? This week, usually I narrow it down to like 3 or 4, and then I try to pick the best one out of those 3 or 4. Here's the 4. Here's my final 4 that I was sitting at my desk at 1 o'clock in the morning, okay? Carolina beat Syracuse. Duke over Clemson, they won. Mississippi State, they beat Arkansas, and Temple. And I picked the one of the 4 that missed. I was down to 4. I was sitting at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, all right, what's my upset? Narrow it down. That's where I'm at right now. Is I'm like, I had 3 of them right, and officially I picked the wrong one out of the 4.
If it makes you feel any better, I made a lot of money betting against Syracuse.
I should have done it. I knew I should have done it.
Anyone who doesn't know what Syracuse football did this past weekend, they started a lacrosse player at quarterback. A true freshman lacrosse player.
I was going to take UNC not even knowing that. I thought it was still going to be Ricky Collins.
No, they benched Ricky Collins. And instead of not even the backup quarterback, not even the third-string quarterback, who were both recruited to play quarterback, they started a kid who was the number 50 recruit in lacrosse and just decided to walk on the football team because he's pretty good at football, too.
The Tyler Buckner of Syracuse. Well, there you go.
Played like Tyler Buckner.
What is Carolina's record now, by the way? Are they going to make a bowl game? Oh, no, they're 3-5. All right, they stay alive. They're 3-5. They stay alive.
Man, Fran, starting a lacrosse player. Man.
He
had 38 passing yards total.
Look, what may have been with Steve Angeli is what it is.
He may have reinvigorated Bill Belichick's love for the game by doing that. Like, Bill Belichick probably heard that and was like licking his chops doing that.
Hey, look, Carolina, the 3-5. Stanford, Wake, Duke, NC State. They're playing better lately.
Yeah.
They almost had Virginia.
I love Fran's answer in the post-game press conference. Like, man, you guys have been begging me to bench Ricky all season, and I finally did, and now you're mad at me. It's like, well, we didn't want you to play lacrosse player.
I'm gonna leave it to you. You're the Cuse guy.
As a Cuse alum, I'm
gonna leave it to you.
Frustrating. It would just be like, what are we even doing out here, man? But anyways, tough loss for Syracuse. But yeah, North Carolina was one that I made a lot of money on because of them too.
Smart.
So I did like the Temple one though. That was my original pick before I changed it. So.
Yep. It was the one of my final 4 that I went with, and of course got wrong, and the other 3 hit, which is quite irritating.
All right, let's get to the updated playoff bracket. So we're not doing the top 25 this week. I want to remind you guys, though, if you want to see the full top 25, that'll be up on PFF.com tomorrow. So if you want to see that. But now with the playoff committee releasing their rankings every single Tuesday night now, we felt like it would be a great time to switch it up from a top 25 to what the playoff bracket would look like as of right now. So let's get to the first 4 teams that get a bye. In this one, the top 4 highest-ranked teams in the playoff is different this year. Last year, it was the 4 highest-ranked conference champions. Now, it's only the 4 highest-ranked teams, period, for them. So, my 4 highest-ranked teams right now, at number 1, Ohio State. At number 2, Indiana. Number 3, Texas A&M. Number 4, Alabama. Nothing changes in the top 4. Does that sound correct to you?
No arguments there.
Okay. First round, we got number 5, Georgia, staying there. Against number 12, Memphis now is a new favorite, I would say, in the group of 6. And wide open right now.
Wide open. Again, all those teams in the American, except North Texas, really playing each other. And 2 sleepers I'm going to throw out there. Number 1, San Diego State, out in the Mountain West. Keep an eye on them. Boise lost to Fresno State. UNLV lost to New Mexico. San Diego State, and they have an outstanding defense. They've only allowed 80 points this season.
Chris Johnson at the corner, right?
Yeah.
He's been
they have outstanding defense, and they're now in first place in the Mountain West with a big. Remember when they beat Cal 34-0? That could loom large here. Keep an eye on San Diego State, and then James Madison has 1 loss still in the Sun Belt. But between those 2, I actually think San Diego State's more dangerous with that win over Cal and a tougher Mountain West to deal with. And they're playing Boise in a couple weeks. I think in 2 weeks, that's going to be a huge game to decide that San Diego State's a sneaky team here if the American really starts beating up on each other.
San Diego State, the 8th best run defense grade and the 2nd best coverage grade in the country right now. They've been great defensively. But I have Memphis right now as my group of 5 team. Number 6, I have BYU, who were actually number 6 last week too, against number 11, now Virginia. I have as the new highest-ranked ACC team right now. Number 7, Ole Miss against number 10, Texas Tech. And then number 8, Oregon, and this will probably ruffle a lot of feathers. Number 9, Texas. I have Texas in the playoff right now with 2 losses.
Huge win against Vandy.
They beat Oklahoma.
They beat Vandy. I see those are 2 of your first teams out here, which makes sense.
Yeah.
I think Texas, the big thing is just there's more to come. Right?
Oh, yeah. No, there's a lot more to come.
The Georgia game and the A&M game. And would they have a case at 9-3? Would they? Not sure. Tough one. Lost to Florida. Looks kind of rough.
Do you agree? Because I feel like a lot of the comments, I'm sure a lot of people in South Bend will be commenting on this. Do you agree that Texas should be the highest-ranked two-loss team over Notre Dame right now? Because I feel like, and I know, I'm expecting Notre Dame to be the highest-ranked two-loss team right now.
Yeah, I'm in on that. Let's see. Texas beat Vandy. Obviously, Mississippi State is decent.
They beat Oklahoma.
Notre Dame's best win. They beat Oklahoma. Notre Dame's best win is USC, and there's not much beyond that. The Boise one looks.
And the Miami loss is worse now.
Yeah, no, Texas should be ahead of Notre Dame.
Okay.
I'm in on that. Yeah.
Cool. So, as a reminder, first round, Georgia against Memphis, BYU against Virginia, Ole Miss, Texas Tech, and Oregon, Texas. That BYU-Virginia game would be incredible.
It sure would. I mean, two of the Cinderellas of college football the last couple of years. I think Texas, more so than being the highest-ranked two-loss team, is their placement at number 9 here. Like, could you argue, because they have 2 losses, being what they are?
Texas Tech, yeah, I could argue that.
Texas Tech,
yeah.
Virginia still has a loss to NC State, although it doesn't hurt them as bad as Georgia Tech. Maybe they're a spot or two too high. Maybe Texas could be number 11 or something like that,
Yeah,
slide
fair.
down a couple. But I don't have an issue with them being the highest 2-loss team over Notre Dame, over Miami. And Miami, do you have Miami ahead of Notre Dame?
I
Right?
do.
Head-to-head makes sense.
I know people are in chat do not agree with that. I just think head-to-head. And the resumes ultimately where I look at most, but like those resumes are so close
Yeah.
that it's like they played each other.
Yeah.
And they lost.
And look, the USC continuing to win is going to make Notre Dame look good as
Yeah.
well. But we got to see that continue. No, but I'm with you on it. Texas, I don't mind them being in. Number 9, we might tweak that a little bit. Then maybe they could be down
I just
to
think
10 or
their
11.
2 wins are better than anything Texas Tech has done.
And one of the losses is the closest that any team has played Ohio State.
Yes.
Still, for as much as they got kind of criticized for that. And yes, they didn't score in that game, but also that was at Ohio. Find me somebody going
Texas
into
Tech lost to Arizona State, who is, that is a big win.
Not great right now.
Big win though against Iowa State though.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you're looking at Texas really now. I mean, they got to earn it. I think the SEC teams all here, Texas, even Georgia, still got to earn it. Couple big games left. Georgia Tech game.
Yeah.
Also curious here because I don't see them just on our board here. Where is Georgia Tech sitting for you in the rankings?
They were still top 20. Dude, it was so complicated. I had Georgia Tech 17.
Because I'm a little surprised they're not ahead of the other two. Shouldn't they be ahead of Miami? No?
I don't think so. And Miami beat
But Miami with the 2 losses? You don't think so?
Miami beat Notre Dame. I mean, Georgia Tech's best wins were over Clemson.
Yeah, that's about right. Duke-ish.
It was really hard ranking it because I would put Notre Dame above Georgia Tech, but I have to put Miami above Notre Dame.
And Louisville still only has 1 loss. The Virginia loss.
So I have Louisville. My first 4 out, by the way. First 4 out were Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Louisville, Miami.
Louisville lost to Virginia. I might consider having it Louisville, Georgia Tech, and then Miami.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because you can't have Miami ahead of Louisville, and you don't, obviously. You can't have them with the head-to-head. And then the Georgia Tech-Miami thing is going to be weird because, again, these big conferences and the unbalanced schedules and things like that. I might have Georgia Tech ahead of Miami, maybe
That's
by
fair.
a spot or 2, but that's the only other one. And the ACC is just pure chaos anyway with where we're at now. It's going to take forever till the last minute to figure all that out.
A lot to figure out in the next few weeks of college football, but that's my current playoff bracket right now. We'll, of course, see the official one this week and Tuesday night. Dalton, we have a major show on Tuesday as well, our Tuesday preview show for Week 11. You want to break down for the people, I believe, the 10 games that we're previewing.
10 games this week, maybe a little lighter than the 12 or 13 we've had in the past, but 10 games. College game days going to Texas Tech, Max, for BYU, Texas Tech, and BYU do it again.
That'll be a top 10 game.
Oh, absolutely. Can BYU do it again? Can they pull off the magic in Lubbock against that Texas Tech defense this time? Texas A&M trying to stay undefeated against Missouri. True freshman Matt Zoller is likely to start for Missouri in that game, but that's always a tough environment to go into and win. Oregon, tough road test against the Iowa Hawkeyes in the Big Ten. And look, I'm telling you, the second tier of this Big Ten getting real interesting there. Big game down in Tuscaloosa between LSU and Alabama. Can Ty Simpson overcome that defense? Auburn against Vanderbilt. Can Vanderbilt bounce back, Max? So we got to see another good run defense coming to town. I know Auburn's been struggling offensively, but it's kind of a weird matchup for them. Georgia going to Mississippi State. Mississippi State finally gets a close win going down to Starkville. Going to be tough. Wake Forest, sneaky team against Virginia there. Virginia trying to keep the magic going again. Wake Forest has played a couple other teams close. Indiana going into Penn State. Obviously, Penn State's been struggling. Indiana's been outstanding every single week. And then we got a couple of Group of 5, at least Group of 5 related games here. Navy against Notre Dame. Can Navy bounce back from the North Texas loss to get a big out-of-conference win against Notre Dame? And Tulane and Memphis, one of the biggest games in the American this year. I talked all show about these teams in the American at the top all having to play each other. The first domino is next week when the Green Wave go to Memphis to play the Tigers. Jake Retzloff versus Brennan Lewis. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Can't wait for that. Tuesday preview show at 1 p.m. Eastern Time will be loaded for Week 11 of college football. For our producers back there, producer Eli, producer Ty, producer Quinn, for Dalton Wasserman, we'll see you guys on Tuesday with our full Week 11 preview.